I've been having encounters with a humanoid thing in the woods behind my place. The woods behind my house are quite extensive, so it's not just a strip of trees. The first encounter I had was when I had shot a raccoon that had been getting in the garbage and spreading it all over the yard. I took it back to the woods to dump the carcass, and I arrived in a clearing that's a short walk from my house. Once in the clearing, I knelt down to get a better grip on the raccoon to toss it into a large ditch. While kneeling, I caught something in the corner of my eye. I turned to see what it was, and just standing there was something that appeared to be a weird person in the tree line facing my direction with a candle at about upper abdomen level. I'm not the best at estimating the height of something from a distance, but it was definitely taller than me by a good bit, and I'm 6'1". The only reason I could see it was because of the light source it was holding. I looked down for a second to see what I was doing, and when I looked back up, it was gone. I had only looked away for a fraction of a second. At this point, I decided to just get out of there, and I left everything where it was. Ever since then, I have been seeing this thing standing completely still in random locations around the woods. And when I look away, poof, gone. Well, tonight, I took my dog out back and immediately felt like something was off. I got my flashlight and looked around, not going in any further than my pup. And there it was, standing completely still, so still that it looked like the wind wasn't even disturbing what appears to be its hair. After staring at the thing, not moving or making any noise, it lifted an appendage in the direction of the dog, which most definitely saw it because before he was in the woods, he was looking at it and completely avoiding it. He usually walks into the woods where it was standing. The dog walked through thick brush and thorn bushes instead of just using the path where this thing was. My pup eventually vanished into the darkness, which is the point where the thing lifted what appeared to be an arm in the last known direction of my pup's travel. After a staring contest with whatever it is, it lowered its arm and my dog came back, running out of the woods, back to the door. I definitely wasn't going to lose sight of this thing while I was so close, so I backed up, still facing it with my light on it. I got back to the door and turned around for a second to get inside, and when I turned around again to shut the door, the thing was closer, a lot closer. I shut the door and closed all the blinds as soon as I could. It has never done anything like this before and has never been anywhere near my house, let alone in my backyard before. At this point, I'm worried about what could happen, especially now that it appears to be getting more aggressive and is stalking me. Any suggestions or knowledge of what it could be? It definitely demonstrated inhuman traits such as instantaneous travel, being completely silent no matter what environment it's in, and being stupid tall, like stupid tall. This happened about 3 years back. My friend and I were 15 and 14 at the time, me being the older one. My friend, who I will call Nim, was house-sitting a friend's dog. The family lived in the country, and the most cars we saw drive by while there was less than 5. Nim was staying the week watching 4 labs. Nim knew the house was haunted because they'd hear the occasional footsteps on the stairs, or the dogs would start barking at the staircase and be too scared to go up them. They spent the first night alone, the next 3 nights with our other friend. This friend got too freaked out because they started seeing people staring at them through the windows while outside, or they'd hear laughter and talking upstairs. The friend left, and Nim invited me to stay the last 3 days with them. Nim told me the house was haunted and everything that had happened. I've never had any bad experiences with the paranormal before, so I wasn't really worried. We were sleeping in the living room, and the first night, nothing really went on. The second night, we heard footsteps go up the stairs, and sometimes we heard someone talking, but neither of us really minded. We both have always been believers, and neither of us wanted to upset any spirits that were possibly there, so we didn't talk about it. The third night was when shit hit the fan. Nim's dad had ordered us pizza, and we sat on the road while eating it. Nim sent me inside to get something, maybe cups. I went straight to the kitchen and then went back outside. To get to the kitchen, you have to pass by the living room, but I didn't go anywhere near the windows. When I went back outside, Nim asked if I sat on the couch and looked at them through the window. I told them no, and we shrugged it off and continued eating. Nim went inside because neither of us remembered to grab napkins. I'm generally the protective friend, so I watched Nim go inside in case they got too freaked out or in case they tripped or something. I looked at the same window Nim had seen me in, and I saw Nim looking at me as well. When Nim came out, I asked if they did what I had done, and they said no. I went to the bathroom first, then grabbed the napkins and came straight out. Fast forward, we go inside, and Nim was fast asleep on the couch. It was an L shape, so it was fairly big. I had 3 of the labs with me. One by my head, another by my feet, and another on the floor next to me. It was past midnight, and I was scrolling through my phone. I heard the youngest lab next to me growling at the arched doorway, and when I looked over, he was stood up and staring at the doorway. The one at my feet was stood up as well on the couch, but not growling, while the one at my head was still lying down. He was looking at the doorway like the other 2. I didn't care too much as I had heard footsteps running up the stairs and giggling all night, so I thought that they were growling at the stairs. I only actually looked at the doorway myself when the oldest by my feet had climbed over my legs and was growling at it. I turned off my phone and sat up. When I looked where they were looking, I saw a black figure standing there. There was enough light shining in the dining room to outline the figure. Of course I panicked a bit because it was just supposed to be Nim and I. I didn't move from the spot, even when the thing looked at me. I don't know how long I held eye contact with it. All I knew was I was too scared to move from my spot. I felt like I was paralyzed. The 3 dogs by me had all stood up and were staring at the figure. 2 were growling and 1 was whimpering. I didn't realize it was walking towards me until it got to the door frame. That's when I finally moved and jumped over to Nim and woke them up. The 4th dog woke up since they were cuddling with Nim, and the other 3 still looked angry or upset at the doorway. I tried telling Nim what happened and even played out to them what I saw. I don't know if they believed me, but I'm sure me having a panic attack and almost crying from fear was convincing enough. Nim stayed up with me and I didn't sleep until I got back home. I don't think I've ever been so happy to leave a place. Now, ghost stories. You've heard a lot, especially here. Now, I'm not one to judge, but what can I say? Whether you believe me or not, this small story is genuinely something that happened, and the only reason I believe in ghosts. When I was 9, I was visiting my grandparents, which we did every 2 weeks. 1 week for Dad's parents, another week for my mom's parents. We were sat in the living room, a rectangular shape. I was sat in the back left of the room, on my granddad's armchair. In my vision, in front of me is my grandma and sister playing with kid toys on the floor. Behind them is the TV I'm watching, and to my left is a patio window with the curtains closed, so nothing there. To my right, there's an empty sofa, and past that, parallel to me, is my mom sat on a futon. Next to her, parallel to the curtains, is my granddad, asleep on another sofa. If I'm in the bottom left of the room, then the top right of the room has the door. Now I'm sat there eating sweets that my grandma gave me, as they do, and I'm watching TV. I'm enjoying myself, but notice to my right, my mom is just staring at me with no expression. I smile at her and carry on watching, and she's just staring at me. Minutes pass, and as I look at her to tell her to stop, I see it in the doorway. An old woman in a nightie, as I call it. She was standing there in the doorway, and you could see her skin, everything, as if someone was there. She was staring straight at me, and me, being 9, I look to my mom, and all she does is smile and say, "You've seen her as well, haven't you?" I won't lie, I instantly cried, and I spat out my food and said, "Who was that?" My granddad woke up, checked the house. Now the reason this was quite messed up was that my mom said, "Now I don't want you copying what I say, so we'll both write down what we saw." She wrote, 5'1" white woman, long gray hair, in her evening dress. I wrote, an old lady with gray hair, as tall as the piano in the hallway that the doorway leads to. My granddad comes back and hugs me, tells me nothing will hurt me, and that he's seen her many times. And my mom also tells me she's seen her once before. So naturally, as a child, I said I'm never going back. But I went back every other weekend until I started university 3 years ago and never saw anything again. I just wanted to share this as it's always been on my mind and it's something I'll never forget. I'd say I hope to not have anything like this ever happen again, but while studying at university, I work in a pub from the 1700s, which I've already had weird stuff happen in, as well as most of my colleagues. Anyways, I've never really shared this, so I just wanted to try. Again, I know, don't believe everything you hear on the internet, but all I can pledge is that this genuinely happened, and it's something that I'll never forget. When I was 12 years old, my twin and I were super into ghosts and would watch ghost shows on TV all the time. One that we watched would do a segment where they'd take a cup, turn it so it was bottom up, and everyone in the circle would put their finger on it. They called this a seance, and they would ask yes or no questions, and if the cup moved, that was supposed to mean a yes. So obviously, my siblings and I had to try this. One summer day, while our parents were gone, my twin and stepbrother dragged the coffee table into our bedroom and closed the door. We had the cup, all put our pointer fingers on it, and we started asking if anything was there. At first, we could tell our stepbrother was messing with us and trying to move it without us noticing. So we told him if he wasn't going to take it seriously, just leave. My twin and I stayed seated, and stepbrother goes to leave. But right as he touched the door handle, the cup started moving in a clockwise fashion, sort of slowly. Of course, I'm not moving it. I ask my twin if she's moving it, and she says no, and is looking a little worried. My stepbrother was watching from the door, and the cup starts moving a bit faster. I take my finger off the cup and go towards my stepbrother, watching in horror as the cup continues to move faster and faster. Bless my twin, because she held on for a bit longer. But eventually, the cup was moving so fast, her hand wouldn't stay on it, even if she wanted it to be there. The three of us ran screaming out of that room. The cup is still moving, and no one is touching it anymore. I have no explanation for what happened that day. All of us ran screaming from that room, and the cup eventually ended up on the floor. Honestly, I have no idea if it flew off or what, because I was gone. Still one of the most bizarre things I have ever experienced.